Give me a pinch of snuff. Such thoughts unman one. As to the priest, that's a totally different affair. If he strangled his daughter, old Alan did right to take the law into his own hands, and throttle him in return. I'd have done the same thing myself. And being a prescribed Jesuit, returned, as I understand, without the king's license for so doing, why, Father Checkley's murder, if it must be so called, I can't abide hard terms, won't lie very heavy at Alan's door. That, however, was nothing to do with Sir Luke. He was neither accessory nor principal. Still, he will be in danger, at least from Lady Rookwood. The whole county of York, I make no doubt, is up in arms by this time. Then why go thither? Asked the count, somewhat ironically. For my part, I've a strange fancy for keeping out of harm's way as long as possible. Every man to his taste, returned Turpin. I love to confront danger. Run away. Always meet your foe. True, replied the count. Halfway, but you go the whole distance. What prudent man would beard the lion in his den? I was never a prudent man, rejoined Dick, smiling. I have no superfluous caution about me. Come what will, I shall try to find out this Luke Rookwood, and offer him my purse, such as it is, and it is now better lined than usual, a hand free to act as he lists, and a head which, imprudent though it be, can often think better for others than for its own master. Vastly fine, exclaimed the count, with an ill-disguised sneer. I hope you don't forget that the marriage certificate which you hold is perfectly valueless now. The estates, you are aware, are no longer Sir Luke's. I see what you're driving at, Count, returned Dick, coldly. But he will need it to establish his claim to the title, and he shall have it. While he was Sir Luke, with 10,000 a year, I drove a hard bargain, and would have stood out for the last stiver. Now that he's one of us, a mere knight of the road, he shall have it, and welcome. Perhaps Lady Rookwood or Mrs. Mowbray might be inclined to treat, maliciously insinuated the count. The title may be worth something to Ranulph. It is worth more to Luke, and if it were not, he gets it. Are you satisfied? Perfectly, replied the count, with affected bonhomie. And I will now let you into a secret respecting Mrs. Mowbray, from which you may gather something for your guidance in this matter, and if the word of a woman is at all to be trusted, though individually I cannot say I have much faith in it, Sir Luke's planetary hour is not yet completely overcast. That's exactly what I wish to know, my dear fellow, said Turpin, eagerly. You have already told me you were witness to a singular interview between Miss Mowbray and Sir Luke after my departure from the priory. If I mistook you not, the whole business will hinge upon that. What occurred? Let me have every particular, the whole history and mystery. You shall have it with pleasure, said the count, and I hope it may tend your benefit. After I had quitted the scene of action at the priory, and that your desire left the Rookwood party masters of the field, I fled with the rest of the crew towards the rocks. There we held a council of war for a short time. Some were for returning to the fight, but this was negatived entirely, and in the end it was agreed that those who had wives, daughters, and sisters should join them as speedily as possible at their retreat in the Grange. As I happened to have none of these attractive ties, and had only a troublesome mistress, who I thought could take care of herself, I did not care to follow them, but struck deeper into the wood, and made my way, guided by destiny, I suppose, towards the cave. The cave! cried Dick, rubbing his hands. I delight in a cave. Tom King and I once had a cave of our own at Epping, and I'll have another one of these fine days. A cave is as proper to a high tobyman as a castle to a baron. Pray, go on. The cave I speak of, continued the count, was seldom used, except upon great emergencies by any of the Stophole Abbey crew. It was a sort of retiring den of our old lioness Barbara, and like all belonging to her, respected by her dupes. However, the cave is a good cave, for all that. It's well concealed by brushwood, and comfortably lighted from a crevice in the rock above. It lies near the brink of the stream, almost the woods, just above the waterfall, and is somewhat difficult of approach." "I know something of the situation," said Turpin. "Well," returned the count, "not to lose time, into this den I crept, and expecting to find it vacant, you may imagine my surprise on discovering that it was already occupied, and that Sir Luke Rookwood, his granddad, old Alan, Miss Mowbray, and worst of all, the very person I wish most to avoid, my old flame Handassah, constituted the party. Fortunately, they did not perceive my entrance, and I took especial care not to introduce myself. Retreat, however, was for the moment impracticable, and I was compelled to be a listener. I cannot tell what had passed between the parties before my arrival, but I heard Miss Mowbray implore Sir Luke to conduct her to her mother. He seemed half inclined to comply with her entreaties, but old Alan shook his head. It was then that Handassah put in a word. The minx was ever ready at that. "Fear not," said she, "that she will wed Sir Ranulph. Deliver her to her friends, I beseech you, Sir Luke, and woo her honourably. She will accept you." Sir Luke stared incredulously, and grim old Alan smiled. "She has sworn to be yours," continued Handassah, "sworn it by every hope of heaven, and the oath has been sealed by blood, by Sybil's blood." "Does she speak the truth?" asked Sir Luke, trembling with agitation. Miss Mowbray answered not. "You will not deny it, lady," said Handassah. "I heard that oath proposed. I saw it registered. You cannot deny it." "I do not," replied Miss Mowbray, with much anguish of manner. "If he claim me, I am his." "And he will claim you," said Alan Rookwood, triumphantly. "He has your oath, no matter how extorted. You must fulfill your vow." "I am prepared to do so," said Eleanor. "But if you would not utterly destroy me, let this maid conduct me to my mother, to my friends." "To Ranulph?" asked Sir Luke, bitterly. "No, no," returned Mrs. Mowbray, in accents of deepest despair. "To my mother. I wish not to behold him again." "Be it so," cried Sir Luke. "But remember, in love or hate, you are mine. I shall claim the fulfilment of your oath. Farewell. Handassah will lead you to your mother." Miss Mowbray bowed her head, but returned no answer, while, followed by old Alan, Sir Luke departed from the cavern. "Whither went they?" demanded Turpin. "That I know not," replied Jerry. "I was about to follow, when I was prevented by the abrupt entrance of another party. Scarcely, I think, could the two Rookwoods have made good their retreat, when shouts were heard without, and young Ranulph and Major Mowbray forced their way, sword in hand, into the cave. Here was a situation! For me, I mean. To the young lady, I make no doubt, it was pleasant enough, but my neck was in jeopardy. However, you know, I'm not deficient in strength, and upon the present occasion I made the best use of the agility with which nature has endowed me. Amidst the joyous confusion, the sobbings, and embracings, and congratulations that ensued, I contrived, like a wild cat, to climb the rocky sides of the cave, and concealed myself behind a jutting fragment of stone. It was well I did so, for scarcely was I hidden, when in came old Barbara, followed by Mrs. Mowbray and a dozen others. "Barbara!" ejaculated Dick. "Was she a prisoner?" "No," replied Jerry. "The old hell-cat is too deep for that. She had betrayed Sir Luke, and hoped they would seize him and his granddad, but the birds were flown." "I'm glad she was balked," said Dick. "Was any search made after them?" "Can't say," replied Jerry. "I could only distinctly catch the sounds of their voices from my lofty retreat. Before they left the cavern, I made out that Mrs. Mowbray resolved to go to Rookwood, and to take her daughter thither, a proceeding to which the latter demurred." "To Rookwood?" said Dick, musingly. "Will she keep her oath, I wonder?" "That's more than I can say," said Jerry, sipping his punch. "'Tis a deceitful sex." "'Tis a deceitful sex, indeed," echoed Dick, tossing off a tumbler. "For one Sybil, we meet with 20 Handassahs, eh, Count?" "20? Say rather 100," replied Jerry. "'Tis a vile sex." End of Chapter 1, Book 4.